We're live. Actually, Andrew says it's available now. So, if you didn't see before, we had some technical issues with the internet, and I tried getting it somewhere else, and that place wasn't very good either. So I'm back at home, and I've paid expensive overplan data, which is something stupid, $10 a meg or something. Yeah, something stupid like that.
Really?
No. No, it's something expensive anyway. Okay.
Well, yeah, if you feel like donating, send through your donations to get EG a better 4G plan while we both wait for the NBN to probably never make it to our areas because basically this is what we can give you to the Australian government for their NBN.
Okay, so we'll just connect our guests. Just a moment. I'll just pause this. And no, okay, so we're back on Facebook. Okay, so we're live now.
Okay.
So
Facebook's easier on the data.
Is it?
Okay.
I don't know. We've got a total of 2 viewers now after all that crap with the internet.
Yeah, I'm one of them.
Okay.
I think it's me.
Okay, so I guess we'll start off with some news.
Yeah. Are you able to pull up our... So I guess we've started the Clutch Kick community, which is just a small Facebook group. If you do have, or you want to be a little bit active with helping us sort of source some news and information, send us through a request on the Clutch Kick community. Andrew's mount is a little bit wild, clearly.
Actually, we haven't really introduced him, have we? Because I introduced him in the video before, but we've taken that down. So we have a guest for this week is Andrew Robinson.
It's all working the first time.
Yeah, I know. It's always something wrong. He's going... We'll have a chat with him a bit later on, but yeah, we'll start going through the news first. So just hang tight. I haven't brought up the page yet. So yeah, keep going.
Yeah.
Greg?
Yeah, so we've started a page called the Clutch Kick Community, and basically it's to help streamline us finding information so we don't have to go hunting for things, and there might be a lot of stuff that we've missed sort of in the week between casts. So if you want to be active with helping us get some information, feel free to send through a request. Basically, post up in there competition results, live streams to different events, just any news of interest to our community. If it gets spammed with too much crap, basically you'll just get banned and your post will be deleted. But hopefully we can just keep sort of a strong group of guys and girls in there helping us collect information. I guess this was a fairly busy weekend in the world of drifting. DCA round 2 of the Queensland series was on, and my understanding is that 3 boats placed on the podium in pro class. It was 333s. Senna Tunney winning. I think he's one of the Drift Pirate guys, ahead of Nick Craig McFeely, who drove QR Matsuri with us and did the first round of DCA National Series, and I think is coming down to Tassie. And then Jake Burns in third, over Jake Thornbury, who has been a weapon at basically every Archie event, doing really well for the last couple of years, well, for the last year and a bit. So, yeah, I think he ended up blowing a diff or something later in the day, so that put him out. This is one that Andrew posted up for us, and the second round of the Drift West Outlaws took place. I'm probably going to butcher a bunch of these names, as his mount was on. I think his mount was a little bit too excited for this old
night, hasn't it?
Yeah. Killing it.
Well, I'm about to kill all these names. Damien McBride taking the win on that. They're doing a bit of a funny sort of thing over there. I think we probably need to delve into that and maybe get somebody who's involved with the Drift West Outlaws to sort of explain how they've got their system working. But I think it's a sort of more of a round robin style competition to give people more of a chance.
Fill you in if you like. Essentially, the idea is it's like a no pressure competition. So they have like 20 cars enter. That ends up with something like 104 battles on the day, where you basically just battle everyone else. And then, if you win, you get like 2 points. If you draw, then you get 1 each. And if you lose, then you get nothing. And so the idea there is that lots of battles for the punters to watch all day long, for the drivers, particularly those who choke under pressure, like me, once you get to the battle rounds. Then, it's just that opportunity to, it's not like a strikeout type competition. Once you can throw a run and then not be out for the rest of the day. So, anyway.
So you spent some time living over there.
Yep.
So it seems like their scene has changed majorly in the last little while. They used to be big dollar cars, big power, huge pro sort of style competition going over there. Probably almost seemed more sustainable than the rest of the country, I would imagine, basically based off the mining industry over there. But then it seems to have gone really quiet, and now this style of competition has popped up, but that's really surprised me.
They're not necessarily related. And there's a lot of politics that have gone on over in the West, because there's 2 sort of rivaling clubs, but except that one of them was backed by the WA Sporting Car Club, which owns Barbagallo, or it holds the lease for the Barbagallo Raceway. It was a bit of like pretty low-end bickering that wasn't very good for the scene at one point. It cleaned up a little bit, and then the biggest difference between the 2 clubs is that D1WA is sort of run by long-term drivers, and the WA Drift was run by whoever was able to run committee positions, so a lot of them weren't necessarily drivers. But obviously D1WA could only run events at Collie at the time. Collie's doing a big upgrade at the moment, so they lost the opportunity to drive there at all, and they managed to work out a compromise where they could use the sort of centre ski pan that's there at Barbagallo now. And the other big difference is that one's running AASA and one was through CAMS. And the stuff at Barbagallo Full Track has always got to be under cams. That's part of the WA Sporting Car Club agreement. But then some stuff that's happened since I've left. WA Drift was dissolved. There was a bunch of stuff that went on there, and that kind of got killed. And that's when you've got this Drift West thing that's just started up recently, and they're the ones running the Outlaw Series. As far as the cars and stuff go, I'd say that all of those cars are probably still out there. And it's just a matter of whether people are willing to risk them for whatever style competition you're running at the time. The other thing with the D1 WA stuff, when they were running in on that pan, they were running crazy amounts of cars at one go. Like, it's a skip pan, right? And they were still running like 8 or 9 cars at a time, which is really cool. But that means, and dudes were getting really good, nice, close battle practice. But it also meant there was lots of, rubbing and banging up of cars. And so, people aren't willing to bring a $100,000 rig out to do low speed drifting where they've, potentially getting knocked into a bit. So that's probably part of it. Now that you're seeing the main track stuff back out at Barb's, and Collier nearly finished their upgrade from what I've been seeing, you'll probably see those cars get pulled out of the sheds.
Yeah, okay. That makes a whole lot more sense considering it was such a big scene going over there, and then all of a sudden all this sort of weird stuff's happened, and everybody over on the East Coast is just a little bit like, well, WA was something to aspire to, and now it's gone quiet, but it's good to know that potentially it's back on the up and up once everything sort of settles again. I guess it's a bit of a similar story to South Australia in some respects, with track management changing, tracks being built, people putting cars away, all that sort of stuff. So good to know that should be back on track. And I think we had one other event, which was the high-tech round 2 of High Tech Oil's South Australia series, and that was won by Stewie Bryant over Dale Campaign with Scott Roberts in third. That's not really a surprise to see those two guys 1 and 2. Suppose they went to a couple of reruns, and with a few people saying it's some of the best battles they've seen. So good to know that that's happening, but I think they probably had the worst attendance of any event over the weekend, with only 10 or 9 cars or something like that. So hopefully once the bend is open and things are a little bit more established and a few more cars out there, people will sort of be able to do more with that. I think in like major news, I guess, for Australian drifting, we had a couple of international results sort of starting to fall some Aussies' way. Matty Hill made top 8 of D1NZ and is currently sitting third in the championship after 4 rounds. But we had Mitch Lana over in the IDC end up third, which really is an amazing result for an Aussie to go over to somewhere that's as competitive as any international championship is, really. Supposedly minimal track time over there, so to be able to go and throw it down and come third in a car that I think he was only just putting back together last week really is a testament to him. But the guy seems to throw down big time. I don't know if you've driven with him, Andrew, over in WA at all. But the kid,
I had a battle with him at one point.
Yeah, kid seems kid seems mental. So hopefully he can keep pushing forward with that. I don't agree with the final results of that round. I don't know how many people have actually watched it, but I thought
I haven't watched it yet. The final decision was pretty crap. It'd be interesting to go through and read the IDC regs, because I would think that a lead car going off track and a chase car being right on his door and following into the same mistake and then losing a tyre would be still put as the fault of the lead car, but I guess that's not how they deem it over there. But if there was a wall there, both cars would have been written off. So I'm not sure how they work that. But when I messaged Jack Shanahan to ask him some wise fab questions and I put it to him, he was very politically correct and said I didn't understand either, and he left it at that. So a good boy for not shitting on his own national series. But I think that's pretty much where we're at for national news at this stage.
Yeah, as I said, we have the Clutch Kit community going now. So if you do have more information, please join that group and don't be afraid to post some stuff up in there. And if there is too much crap, we will sort of cut you off and you won't be welcome in that group anymore.
We have a few people in mind. That's why.
Targeted.
Yes, it is.
Connor.
He's been banned from a lot of groups, so we're well aware of his reputation. Okay.
This is you. You take over, mate.
Yep. So our guest this week is Andrew Robinson, as mentioned before. So the reason why we've got Andrew on this week is due to the 8/6 festival that happened in Winton 2 weeks ago. So none of us, or as in myself and Greg, weren't able to make it down to that event. I was thinking about it, but I didn't end up going down. I think I actually spoke to Andrew beforehand because I was considering going. But yeah, in the end, I had some other things I had to do, so I didn't go down. But anyway, so tell us a bit about yourself and I guess yourself, Moonlit Garage, any experiences, and then anything you want to say, then we'll move on to the 8/6 Festival of Winton. So,
Sure.
Okay.
So I don't know about me. Been drifting since probably 2007-ish, albeit I move around a lot for work. So as I was sort of talking about before, obviously spent some time in Perth, a bit of time in Victoria and New South Wales, which has given me the opportunity to drive a bunch of different tracks, which not everyone at the sort of amateur level gets to do, which is good. But it also means that sometimes when I move, there's kind of 18 months or so where I can't drive, or I might even go somewhere and not have my car for a period of time or whatnot. So while I say I've been driving since 2007, it's not really 11 years of interrupted drifting. There's been heaps of off time. Started off literally driving my daily, which was a 300 ZX at the time, and still had the high gas enabled and everything, which was pretty junk for it, but it was good fun to drive. And it was also good because I was junk because everyone starts at the bottom. But it kind of meant that when people watched me, they weren't really expecting some awesome driver, which just takes the pressure off and lets you learn and have a good time.
So where were you drifting that?
So it kind of actually leads into how I got into drifting at all.
Okay.
So I was in Victoria for a little while.
Yep.
And at the time, I'd just been doing circuit stuff like most people get into or fall into at the start. And went to a Calder Park sort of open circuit practice. And the car was pretty much unmodified, so I went out and did some laps. And basically, I don't know if you guys have been to Calder, but it's also like a full drag strip. So you come around the last corner carrying all over 100 and then hit an enormous straight. And I was hitting the factory speed limit of like 184 by like a quarter of the way down the straight. And so you work really hard and maybe overtake a couple of people in the track, and then you get to the straight and that'll just blow by. And so I got the shits and went back in and put the stockies on and just thought, I'll just teach myself some car control instead. And had a really awesome time. And it's one of those things like, when you're driving seriously for grip, you've got to be sort of focused the whole time. And then afterwards you sort of sit back and go, yeah, that was good fun. But then when I was doing the drifting stuff, I'd kick the car around sideways and barely hold on to it, but I was just practically wetting myself laughing the entire time. So then I pretty much didn't do another grip day for, I don't know, maybe best part of 6 or 7 years.
Wow.
So the rest of that was just grip. It's just drifting. So, and that was around the time that I got posted to Perth. So, yeah, I started drifting at Barbagallo, which as far as learning tracks goes is probably not ideal. Because it's obviously quite a fast track.
Bring your 1,000 horsepower and your semi-slicks.
Yeah, and I am in my daily.
Yeah, it's kind of equivalent to Eastern Creek, isn't it? Or is it even worse?
So what? Sorry, which call?
Eastern Creek, Sydney Motorsport Park.
Oh yeah. It's all nice long corners. Most of it's uphill.
Yeah.
in my current car, it was almost all fourth gear. So yeah, it was junk to learn. But and the worst part was that, you know, I needed that car to drive to work the next day. So so I just kind of drifted the corners I could drift, and then I straightened up to the S's because I'm like, yeah, no, like that's where everyone dies, and I'll, you know, then kick it back up on the C-Red. I think it's called V8 Race now. Anyway, but yeah, so got into that. Had an A86 as well, but that had an NA4AG in it, and I was like, oh no, I wouldn't be able to drive that at Barbagallo. It's too fast. But then some of the other guys there, like, and some of the guys that you still see driving out there, Dom Zaff and Alex as well, and then some of the guys who started up D1WA as well, were driving NA4AGs. I thought, oh, I'll give it a go, and then took it out once, and I never drove the Z again. So even though it was junk on power, it's just so much easier to be consistent and stuff. And yeah, just have a really good time. So that's kind of what MG is all about, or Midnight Garage is all about. Is, you know, a couple of guys that just enjoy drifting. I think Jojo has completely given up on comps and just does, you know, like that series style events or practice days and that sort of stuff.
Yep.
Just, you know, run lots of trains and get up on the door and enjoy it. You know, the way I look at it is, if I was going to be a professional driver, I started a good 15 years late. So that's not a thing. So let's just enjoy the money we're spending to get out on the track. So
okay. So tell us a bit about your car. So at the moment you have an 8.6, or at least two, I think. We've got that photo.
Yeah.
Are they're both yours?
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I've got a street car, which is a 4AG imported Truno, which I imported myself. And it's, you know, it's got a few suspension and stuff that came with it essentially from Japan. But all I've really done is just tidied it up. And then the race car is the polar opposite. So it's a 11. I bought it with, of all motors, a 1G GTE in it, which came straight out.
That's a 6-cylinder?
Yeah, 2-litre 6 out of like an old Sora.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, so that got pulled out straight away. It was an absolute boat anchor, so heavy, and it had this enormous steam pipe manifold on it. Anyway, but yeah, so that came out. I've put an SR20 in it, mostly because of ease.
Yep.
Like heaps of aftermarket support. Even with the manifold and the turbo and everything, it weighs similar to 4AG, because the 4AG is a cast iron block versus alloy in the SR. So yeah, still keeps its kind of balance, unlike with the 1G, and essentially you're looking at sort of 300 horsepower, where it's, you know, designed for like 100. So yeah, that's the setup. It's got a Tarago diff in it. I've just upgraded to an RB25 box because I was sick of building Franken boxes. And the idea behind it is more just reliability, as much as that sounds strange, picking an SR. But 300 horsepower is not stretching it at all. So I can lean on it all day long and not be worried about it. I mean, I could do a 4A GTE to get similar power, but it's just going to be a bit more highly strung. So
yeah, I've seen that in Steve Pembrey's car. He kept blowing them up a lot.
Yeah, but you look back at like Aiden Friel over in WA, and he's got like a properly built 4A GTE setup. It was making more power than mine, like sort of 340 horsepower. And like the only thing I ever saw go wrong with his motor was the weld on the wastegate failed. You know, and he used to drive just as much as we did. He just built his motor right. But that's just big dollar stuff. I bought the motor in again, of all things, a Z32.
Yeah, I remember that actually. That was in Canberra,
weirdest
wasn't
conversion ever. No, I got it from Sydney, but I brought it back to Canberra to pull apart.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
wait,
we pulled that apart.
an SR and a Z32.
Yeah. The guy had
Like 2 SRs and a Z32, or just one?
no, single.
Yeah. See, it doesn't seem like it would actually get it to move.
They're not that heavy. People hate on them, but the 2-seater is actually not a crazy heavy car. The 4-seater is. It's nearly 1,600, but if you got like a 2-seater slick top, they could be factory around 1,300, which is not that far removed from a Sylvia.
Yeah.
It's not that different to a Skyline R32.
Yeah. And they literally have lead lining in the doors for like sound stuff and all the rest of it. There's so much weight you can pull out of them.
Yeah, Jesus.
And the wheelbase is actually about the same as an A86. So if you can drive, it would actually be an okay platform.
The
I sat there and
Z32.
did the maths.
Really?
Yeah, I sat there and did the maths on how much it would cost me to build one though, and it was, I stopped at 40k. I'm like, I'm not going to do that.
Because it's when I looked at it, it looked really similar to an R32, but sort of a bit beefier.
Yeah, it's probably closer to a 33 in that the Z32 box is almost like internally the same as a 25 box. It could even be the same.
Yeah, it's the same.
Yeah. Obviously, the VG30 is a much bigger motor, but it's also a 6, so it kind of pushes that weight closer to neutral. But yeah, anyway. Yeah, they do have an enormous diff as well, Mitch. It's like a 9-inch, so you're not going to break it.
R230 or something, I think it was. Yeah. Something crazy.
If you look at them over in the States, right, like dudes are pushing ridiculous numbers out of Z32s because they never got the Skyline, so they just play with them. Whereas, over in Japan, it was kind of seen as an export car, and they were really expensive out of the factory. Like, to convert it to modern money, they were kind of over 200k new. So yeah. Anyway, how do we even get there? My car.
I was
I'm
going to say you're
part of the T28 cut and shut family. So it's got a 2871R in it. Like, as far as mods to the motor goes, 2871R. Obviously, it was converted in there, so it's got its like a not factory intercooler with a front mount. Still got the factory exhaust manifold on it, factory inlet manifold. Just injectors in the turbo, really, and then the ECU. So again, it's not an outlandish setup, but 300 horsepower is not asking all that much from an SR.
Cool.
Yeah, it's coming from the dude who's got a 500 horsepower one that sits like a paperweight because it's always broken.
Yeah, well, that's the idea, right? It's just seat time, having a good time. I go on the odd comp, but I don't really care if I do well or not. It's more just a bit more track time. Like, I went in Calder round 1 since I got here, and that was just because they were running a layout they'd never run. So I was like, well, if I don't do this now, I might miss the opportunity. But yeah, I don't know if I'll run any more rounds. I'm away for round 3. I wouldn't mind doing a run the wall round just because that's an exciting layout.
That's the one
interesting with
around the bowl at the back, isn't it?
Yeah, the bowl, the pit entry lane.
Yeah.
But I had a good time. I did a practice day on that the day after the comp for round 1, and the car is really well set up for that. So
cool. So yeah, I know you. Sorry, my mic's being a bit funny. I know you want to mention about one of your experiences in Japan. So, like me,
with the headsets.
Yeah, you're one of the guys that goes to Japan and mainly goes to the Matsuris at Ebisu, I think. You haven't done any other events, have you?
Nah, so I did a G1. I'm not going to go for a Ebisu Drift Series. It's just kind of next level as far as like your car requirements and stuff as well. The car I had over in Japan was a R32 with a 25 in it. Originally, when I got there, it had a TD06 on it, and that blew up within the first 20 minutes of driving. And so then I had a final time pulling that off and converting it to a standard manifold and everything. And then, just ran factory turbo, blew another turbo almost immediately. So then I didn't even run a boost controller or anything. It just going off wastegate 7-pound, and even ran the G1 GP like that. But still did okay-ish. Like, I think you were there for that one as well. I think there was like 40-odd drivers.
That was...
And, it was a pretty big one for a summer, that series. And, I qualified like 14th. Yeah, August 16.
Yeah.
Qualified like 14th. It was up against bloody Alex Robinson. So, not Alex, sorry, Josh Robinson. So he actually had a chat to me at the start. He's gone, at least we know a Robinson will win. I was like, that's my initials. And he didn't find that very funny. But anyway, funnily enough, he did beat me. But it was actually pretty tight. So not bad for a little 25 that could. But trying to get back over to Japan at some point. I think I may have just talked the missus into the idea of it, but we'll see.
Okay.
We'll see. It's kind of hard to tell your missus, I'm going to go on a 10 grand or so holiday, hun. Do you mind staying at home? So, that
you need somebody to change your tyres, though.
Yeah, that would not go down well.
Okay.
Well,
somebody's got to make the ramen.
Anyway. So anyway, in Japan, we one thing we did do, which was awesome, was we bought, or I bought, and then Alex Meyer bought some little motorcycle like Bluetooth units that just attach to your helmet, and they work pretty much the same. You'd expect like a Bluetooth head unit in your car to work. So they connect to your phone, and you can just stream music into your head. Or the cool thing that they can do is they connect to each other by Bluetooth. So you can have sort of, depending on how expensive you buy, the entry-level ones, you can have up to about 4 people talking to each other. And then we're just there, throwing banter out the whole time, like particularly the G1 practice, we're on sort of Nishi long-ish. We're just there, throwing it in, doing trains, just being like, come on, dude, get up on the frigging door. What are you doing? Or even when your car was hot, you're like, I need 2 cool down laps, or my tyres are done, I'm going to pull in, or whatever it was. But such a good thing, and it's just something that doesn't seem to be out there for whatever reason, for like the $200 it costs to get one. And then, like, if you want to talk about sort of pro-level guys, because it connects to your phone, people can just call you. So if you want to have your spotter sitting, doesn't matter what track you're on, like Eastern Creek's a great one because it's such a huge layout. Like, your spotter could just literally call you, and as long as you've both got phone reception, they can talk to you for the whole track, and in real time.
What's the clarity like?
It's pretty good because, again, they're designed for motorcycles, right? So they're pretty good at filtering out wind noise, pretty good at filtering out engine noise. They're not great at tyre squeal, and if you do have like a big V8 setup, then you do hear a bit of that sort of deeper sound that bikes don't really make. But it's really clear, and the speakers, again, depending on how much you want to spend, can be quite good quality too.
Are they? Is the speakers? Do you put them inside the helmet itself, or is it just a unit that attaches to the outside?
No, so the unit, again, there's a bunch of different varieties, but most of them just have like a unit attached to the outside, little cables that you kind of just tuck in to the foam and stuff in your helmet, and then they've usually got like some sort of Velcro adhesive thing that you stick to like the ear cavity, and they sit in your ear cavities. So it's all pretty clear.
The hardest part with that sometimes is I tried to use a similar motorbike setup on a motorsport helmet, and the motorbike helmets have a cutout for where your ears go so you can talk and do all that sort of stuff in here. But I find that the motorsport helmets tend to not have a gap there, so I found that I end up with a crap load of pressure from those Velcro ones. So I had to ditch that idea, and occasionally I've tried to run earbuds inside my helmet.
Yeah, everyone does the dodgy iPhone one, but I actually found the opposite. My race lid one has heaps more room around the ears than my motorcycle helmet did. I actually left that in the car in Japan. So I had to buy a legit helmet when I got back. But yeah, the race lid one has got heaps of room. I don't even notice that the earplugs are in there. It'll depend on your individual setup.
Are they push to talk, or are you using push to talk?
No, it's duplex. It's full duplex. So you can talk over each other and anything. It's all good to go.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I know we've tried CVs and stuff and mobile phones, but the other issue is when you talk, and then you've got the car exhaust noise. All you can hear is the car running. Is that?
Yeah. I've never had a problem with it. I used to throw, like once I got back from Japan, I obviously brought both of them back. And so I'd throw ones to whoever I was driving with that particular day, and we'd be able to talk quite clearly. So,
okay.
But yeah, I mean, that was the Cena unit that I've got, which is, it's not their very bottom one. It's like one step up, the SMH 10, again, around $200. But yeah, I mean, you can buy cheaper ones, you can buy heaps more expensive ones. The Cena SMH 10 can talk up to 4 people at a time. The 30, I think, can do up to 8, and the really modern ones do a slightly different thing, and they can talk up to like 60 or more people at a time. But
wow,
if you're drifting in a 60 train, then you're not going to do that in Australia. You're not even going to do that on Nisha Short these days, if we're fair. So
we can give it a go.
Yeah.
See, I don't think I could run
have a headset.
Yeah, I couldn't run a headset like that with EG because all I'd do is cop abuse about how shit my driving is. So I probably have to.
Put your hands on the steering wheel, Greg.
It's tough love, Greg. It's tough love. Maybe you'd be better after a bit of EG bashing for a while.
No, trust me, I've been copping EG bashing for 12 months now. So
I can see your hand out the window, like it's meant to be on the steering wheel.
No, you drive with your feet in the handbrake, mate.
Okay. So 2 weeks ago was the 8.6 festival down in Winton. I had a guest driver from Japan, but I didn't really hear much about him driving because I think, well, all I heard was that I've just forgotten his name. So once it comes
to... Shizan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So running 386 for those who don't know his actual name.
Yeah. He didn't actually get to drive really, I think, from what he was saying.
Yeah. So the event was really awesome. Peter's been trying to put on 8.6 Festival for years and years. He got digged around by a bunch of tracks, which cost him a fair bit of money as well. So he's been pretty dedicated to this idea for quite a long time. Like, I think it's one of his top bucket list items. He's been into A86s for a long time. I think his first car was an 8.6. Since then, he started up the Drift Cadet school here in Melbourne, and runs most of the sort of training events from what I've seen at the skip pan at Winton, which is like a huge skip pan. It's probably about the same size as the one at Eastern Creek, but it's circular. Whereas at Eastern Creek one is kind of a rectangle.
And it's dry.
They're both dry. I mean, I think Peter wets them down.
But Eastern Creek you're not allowed to run it dry. It has to be run wet. So I think the one at the one at Winton they're allowed to run dry. I think
dry,
they run it fairly.
It's actually dry by default. You'd have to wet it down if you wanted to. But yeah, so he runs that. That's in the newer 8.6s. So I think the idea behind that is that it's a reliable platform that, again, doesn't have crazy power, but it's good fun to drive, so good entry-level stuff. Anyway, so he's been putting on an event. He had bought another car a while back. Actually, some of the WA guys, Ken Leong and Matsky. And long story short, it had a misfire issue. They put a bunch of suspension stuff in it. He took it to get the engine sorted out, and they believed that they'd had it sorted out before the event. So it was going to be all good for Takashi-san to drive. But long story short, they got it out, did a couple of runs, and then it just started missing again. So, yeah, long story short, it didn't really work out. Funnily enough, being a famous 86 driver, people were almost queuing up to throw him the keys to their car. It's like, oh, I'll drive my car instead then. First time he did that, he broke the boss kit, like the boss kit cracked or sheared or something while he was actually driving someone else's car. And he's just kind of like, yeah, I'm out. So, I mean, if we're honest, nothing is going to compare to the car he's got back at home. So probably fair call. And he didn't want to end the day by crashing someone from another country's car. He's actually a really cool guy. Most of the events I've been to in the past where you've had a international driver come, particularly from Japan, they can't speak English very well, and it's just kind of awkward sign language and stuff. And we've lost Greg. No, we're back.
No, mate.
And
that's all right. Greg's busy downloading porn, or maybe the last season of it in D.
But Takashi-san could talk, could speak really good English, and he was pretty funny. So that was just made it a heaps more natural experience. And he's running around and taking photos all over the place. I think he had just as good a time running around and talking to people than he would have had driving.
He's very active on
shit.
Yeah, he's very active on Instagram. So if you want to check him out, I think he's at running386. I think that's his Instagram account. And he does live streams as well as he talks some English, but every time I hear him, it's like the Japanese style. Like it's I think it's enough to get by.
Yeah.
But it's weird that. I thought he would have come over sooner for some of the other ASICS events as well. Oh, also there's another thing that I don't know if you're into the MR2s, but there's an MR2 guy that's from Japan that comes over. You haven't heard about? No, okay, no worries. I thought there might be something similar, but I guess not. Anyway, I'm not really into Toyotas, even though I did drive one before, but not at the moment. The car just keeps breaking for some reason. I don't know why. I think they're just not made very well.
Toyota people would probably say that I'm not into Toyotas because I have a Nissan Donk in my current car. But again, you can't always get that, oh, you should have put a 3S in it, or you should have put, 4 GTE or whatever in. And that's all well and good. And if you want to do that and pay for it, then go and buy yourself a car and do it. But we've lost Greg properly.
That's right. I think we're getting lots of feedback too. No, I like Toyota engines. They're awesome. Like I drove Steve Pembrey's 2GR. That's really cool. All the 1Js I've driven. It's like, oh wow, this is like such a smooth 6-cylinder engine. It sounds awesome too. But then the cars like around the engine just doesn't seem to hold together.
Yeah.
Maybe we should just
cut it. 86s are pretty good. But
anyway. I've actually got an 86 in my backyard at the moment. But I can't procure it.
As in an A86 or?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
But, I won't get sold
Turn a corner, mate.
Huh?
You might have turned a corner now.
It's very... I did have a look over it the other day, and it's very typical Toyota. It's rusted everywhere. So big holes in it on the windscreen. Windows have rust bits everywhere through it. I think you can see through the floor as well. I think there was a spot where there was a gap. That's pretty common, isn't it?
You need to talk to Dr. Probe at the moment. He's cutting apart a really rusting one and fixing it up. Which he was going to just kind of cut up and take the couple panels or sell it or something. But he's decided to use it as a bit of an experiment and turn that into another drift car now that DDR's blown another motor.
Okay.
He's the other driver from Moonlight Garage. He goes by many name. But Jose is pulling that car apart now. He's tube fronted it. He's putting on big flares on the back and repairing all the rust as he goes.
Yep.
So that'll probably replace the red car that up until now has been SR20 powered, and in the last 4 events that he's done 3 motors. So
yeah, I heard about that. So,
yeah. So the thing as well is he's got pretty fresh 480 GTEs and W boxes and stuff just sitting in the shed. So there was talk that we could have switched DDR back to 4A, but I think what he's going to do is fix his shell up and run that instead. But it'd be good to see Jojo back out on the track. We've been trying to get together for a track day for Yonks, and it's just never worked out. And Winton was going to be the first one where both Moonlight Garage drivers were driving together.
Yep.
And we got like a small session on the skid pan, and I chased him for like 2 laps at the on the main circuit.
Yeah.
And then the motor spun a bearing. So
okay. Yeah, that sucks. That always sucks whenever you plan to do that and that sort of things happens.
Okay.
Yeah, so tell us more about the... Sorry?
Festival.
Yeah, the festival. How many cars were there?
As far as entered goes, I think there was about just short of 30 in the drift section.
Yep.
And then just short of 20, I think, in the sort of time attack, super sprint, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, because it was split up, wasn't it?
Yeah, we split it up, and the time attack super sprint stuff was run on the full circuit of the national circuit for Winton, and then the drifting was run on the club circuit, which is because the national circuit's got like quite a bit more straight on it, and it's just not really particularly entertaining for drifting. But then for the high speed cars, makes much more sense to have those extra straights in place. There's some pretty impressive cars down there. Like there was the GoPro car that had like the M5 V10 in it. There was obviously the Harrop guys there showing off all their supercharged gear.
Wait, did you say V10 86?
Yeah, ZN6, like the GT86, whatever you want to call it, the new model.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the one you see on the GoPro. On the Speed Hunters front page, I think, is that car from memory.
Oh, okay. I really should start looking at Speed Hunters again, but I haven't watched it. I haven't looked at the page in a few years. I think they changed the style, and I just sort of didn't really dig it. Anyway,
But yeah, so there were some really impressive cars that had come from quite a ways. I think most of those like really fast cars had come from Sydney. A couple of the drift drivers had come from like Queensland and SA. So it's a pretty good spread as far as the commitment for people to actually come at all. And yeah, it kind of made the event heaps better. It was like a super laid-back day. I kind of regret driving as much as I did because, I'm kind of living the dream in one way, and the car was running all day.
Yeah.
But in the same way, I missed an opportunity to hang out with a bunch of, cool guys with a common interest. And again, I had a good time, but yeah, you're just not going to get that opportunity. When they did the parade lap, there was something like, it must have been at least 80 cars on the circuit for that, and in that sort of lineup, because it was 5 wide, and it must have been, it was well more than 10 deep. It was quite a walk from the front back to my car at the back. So yeah, there must have been at least 80 odd cars between the A86s, the ZN or CN6s, and a pretty rare sight to see these days as well. So Peter did a fantastic job, and people have been into him already. It's like, oh, cool, same time next year. And I think that if he was going to do something like that, he'd need like a bit more support, because he ran the whole thing himself, and I'm pretty sure it was probably run at a bit of a loss just to get it off the ground at all.
Okay.
But yeah, as I said, it's one of his sort of bucket list things. At the end of it, he had this enormous smile on his face, and it's kind of like no regrets. He didn't seem upset about it. But again, if it was going to be run again, I think he'd need someone to get behind him to help shed the costs and whatnot.
Yeah. So did you? So normally when we go down to Winton, we stay at the Vanilla Caravan.
Yeah.
Something or other, I think it was. Did you guys get up to mischief over there?
The leisure park.
The leisure park. That's it. Because it usually holds all the competitors, spectators, and everything the night before or the night after. So.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it was a one-day event, which was probably the only downside of it. It was, particularly guys coming from Queensland and Sydney and whatnot. It's a long way to go for a single day's track time, but obviously the costs would have gone up a lot higher if we'd hired the track and skip pan for 2 days. So that probably would have scared people away as well, because it was already, I think it was best part of $300, so it was already a reasonably expensive day at the track. So if you were going to double that, then I think that you wouldn't get too many people turning up at all, which defeated the purpose. So I get why it was a single day, but that kind of meant that it was a bit awkward, as far as hanging out at the park beforehand.
Yep.
We certainly did, and we had dinner at the pub, the Royale up the road, as well. So it's not like we didn't do any socialising, but yeah, I was just saying, during the day I could have spent a bit more time on the wall watching some of the other drivers and stuff. Like I really only saw the drivers I was driving with. So guys like Ron and whatnot in his Beams car, I had some pretty close runs with him. And then the other time that I didn't spend on the track, I was either taking people out for first time runs on the skip pan or something, or trying to give Jose's car some shade to try and convince it that it should drive again, but that didn't work. So,
all right. Did you actually get to hang out and chat with Takahashi-san at all?
Yeah, particularly the night before the event at the pub, and then I happened to run into him at the service station when we were gassing up my car and Ron's car. So, I had a good chat to him. As I said, he's like a super light-hearted guy.
Yeah.
There was a good argument the day before about whether it's a Palmy or a Palmer. Big issues being debated at the 86 festival.
Yeah. Okay. So what did he say? Was he convinced?
I think
was it Palmer or Palmy?
He was fed a campaign. Mate, English is not his first language. He said that already. He doesn't care. He's going to repeat whatever people tell him is right. So I think he was being used as a bit of a weapon against some of the other people there who they knew were going to get upset. Pretty sure they convinced him it was Palmer. But anyway.
That's all right.
Yeah. But no, he was cool. He had SLR that was massive, and so he was getting around getting heaps of photos, and that's why you would have seen them on his Insta feed.
Okay. I thought he normally takes things with his GoPro or his phone or something like that with an attachment. That's what it sort of looked like to me. But
yeah, no, this thing was definitely a big SLR.
Okay.
He did bring his GoPro as well, I think, because he recorded the lap when Bo Yates took him out, and that's come up on his Insta since as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and cool to see Bo there as well. He was supposed to bring both of his cars, but he did a gearbox at the Toyota Nationals or something like that, like a week or 2 weeks before. So he didn't have a replacement in time. But so he was down there with his family and his new trailer and everything, which all looked pretty sexy. And it's funny, the scrutineers were like going, he was one of the first guys to get scrutineered, and they were going over his car with his fine tooth comb, and like everyone behind was just like, far out, is this going to be the 86 Nationals where one car total passes scrutineering?
Which car did he bring down?
The GT86.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So.
I know.
With him. I keep up on 195s. So.
Have I lost? Is it my internet or? Okay, I think he's back. Sorry. He just dropped out for a moment there. I don't know because Greg. Oh no!
Nope.
Holy moly!
He's in and out. Yeah.
Mine's a vegetable. Mine's a full-blown vegetable today, so...
Yeah, and don't we just love the internet situation in Australia? It's really good. Anyway.
It's fantastic.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay. I don't know what to ask.
Well, I know you guys...
4 of those and a large cheeseburger. Yeah, I know.
I know you touched on it, but the fact that it got Speed Hunters coverage is a pretty big deal for the event organizer as well as all the drivers. It's, we don't get a huge amount of event coverage in Australia on Speed Hunters being one of the biggest sort of photography blog sites sort of in the world, and to have that event covered, considering that's regional Australia, it's pretty cool that actually got a really good cover on that. So, and a few pictures of your car up on there as well, which is nice to see, I'm sure, for you.
It's always rad. So it was a grant from Gripshift Slide that took all those photos that ended up on Speed Hunters. There was actually quite a few photographers there, which was pretty cool. And I mean, a lot of them were sort of focused on the cars that more turned up for the show and shine. There was a few guys that were more focused on the track stuff. Grant kind of did a bit of both, and that's probably why Speed Hunters were interested in the photos and article that he wrote. But yeah, it's always awesome or satisfying to see that sort of stuff end up and take your 2 seconds of e-fame when it comes. But
did you actually get onto the article?
Yeah. There's two photos of my rig in the Speed Hunters one. There was one of JoJo's, but it was mostly the interior.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, Mr. Nathan didn't do that much driving, so it's not like you would really expect there to be heaps of photos of his car.
Yeah, okay. So he's got a few though. It was the red one, wasn't it, that he took up?
Yeah, it was DDR. So if you want to know what that one stands for, you can send Joseph a message yourself. Yeah, so he's got 8 6s at the moment. So that Moonlight Garage, I guess, then has 8 in the shed, and so that one is his dedicated drift car. As I said, it looks like he's restoring another one now to be a drift car. He's got a Street Truno, Time Attack 11, and then assorted. I can't even keep up with all of Joe's cars.
Yeah,
and that's just his A86s, right? He's got some Mark IIs and stuff as well. So, but yeah,
cool. Okay,
it's probably the opposite of you then, E.G.
Yeah. Well, I remember he did take a video of his backyard, and oh no, did we go offline?
You're still there? I've lost EG, but yeah.
I've lost the stream as well because EG's streaming.
Nah, the stream looks like it's still good. I don't know what's going on tonight. I think
we got you back, EG.
I'm back.
We're being spied on, and I know we lost the live stream.
Yeah,
it's killed.
It looks like
it's interrupted. I know it's back up.
Oh, there we go.
Man, the internet hates us today. Absolutely hates us.
I don't like you either. You just watch yourself. Anyway,
it sucks. I can't set the stream up as well. It's still frozen on.
Oh man, it's frozen on mine, and I look real seedy. But now it looks okay. Yeah. Jesus. Yeah. Oh, we've lost EG again on the stream.
No, we'll just wait for it to come back.
I think we're good.
Yeah.
Is it back? I think it's back.
I'd like to thank the NBN for sponsoring the Clutch Kit.
I know.
Jesus.
This is ridiculous. All the dropouts and how difficult it's been. Yeah.
I think it'd be easier if we just sort of rent out the Opera House and then we'll just do a live show every week and people have to come watch us.
That actually would be easier.
Yeah, I know. Literally.
Yeah.
But it's this is, yes, just gotta love it. Do something cool
Have you
By
met?
nature.
Hey, what happened to all the puns that you were going to bring up?
Well, there hasn't really been that much opportunity.
Okay.
I was just trying to, drag some people to your stream. That's all. Promise and under-deliver.
Ah, yes. I've
That's fair.
seen that sort of stuff on YouTube before. That's to dig at someone.
I don't know who-
It's copper wire.
Who's that aimed? I don't even know who that's aimed at.
Kev.
Oh, okay, don't worry. If you don't know, it
that's the
doesn't
NBN.
matter.
This was
Right,
aimed at me, but I don't remember doing anything.
No, it's not you.
Okay, that's right, then.
Okay. So that was the 8-6 festival, I guess. It was.
Yeah, really cool day. Again, if everyone can hit up Peter and more importantly, get him some support so we can do more events like that, that'd be really cool.
What?
And then hopefully as well, next time we'll get more than one working Moonlight Garage car there too.
So what sort of thing does Peter do? He's just a drive instructor, or?
Yeah, so he runs that Drift Cadet scheme school, which is, I think, got like a CAMS affiliation as well. Like he's a CAMS representative. So he takes those cars around to a lot of, like he was at the G1, not G1, the F1, for example.
Yep.
Kind of repping drift in Australia. So he's
Okay.
trying to build it the right way by doing the ground up approach, getting people the skills and making it less hoon orientated. And yeah, so that sort of image is pretty important to him from what I've picked up. And again, it's kind of still entry level because the cars themselves are not crazy modified. I think even his kind of main car is pretty much a stock motor with E85 and a tune, and that's about it.
That's the new 8.6, isn't it?
Yeah. So all of the Drift Cadet cars are new, either 8.6s or BRZs.
Okay. Would you ever move to a new 8.6?
I already had one. I got one as a street car for a while.
Oh, did you?
And,
Okay.
and then the lease ran out and I moved it on. I moved it on so I could buy the Truno. I figure Trunos won't be available forever and 8.6s are going to be the default car pretty soon. If you look at kind of the golden age of Japan has ended and there aren't that many exciting cars coming out. So really I will no doubt have more GT86s and that'll be when they're, sort of 10 to 15 grand and
Yep.
and everyone's done all the R&D to make them steer right for sliding. So
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
A86s have got 30 years of R&D behind them, so there aren't really that many new things that you have to do to make them drive right.
Cool. I've heard some people say that because we, as in Australia, got all the 11 fronts, America got the Treno fronts, so the pop-up lights, that they want to do like a big sort of shipping container exchange. Because apparently the 11 fronts are really sought after in America, and whereas we want the pop-up lights here.
Yeah, the problem is that the USDM front bars and stuff are all junk. They're absolutely horrible. So, yeah, you'd be fine for bonnets and guards and stuff, but certainly we would still have to source all of our own stuff when it comes to front bars and whatnot, and they're getting pretty hard to find as well, right? So it's not as good a trade for us as what they'd be getting. But
Okay.
but there's a lot of money in the States, so if people wanted to do it, there's certainly a way to earn some cash.
Yeah, okay. Cool. So yeah, I'm not sure what else to ask, unless you've got any questions, Greg.
I keep missing half the conversation because of fucking dropout. So
Does it actually drop out completely?
Yeah, I can't hear you guys. Like I can see you guys, but I can't hear, and I'm ready to like throw everything that's sitting on my desk right now.
That's how I felt like where I was before.
Oh, when I'm Bali.
Yeah.
When you're over in Bali trying to get
see us, we're both very attractive men. So
I don't need to see. Yeah, it makes it really easy to understand what's going on when you only hear half of it.
Okay, so important question: have you watched Initial D?
Buddy, I saw Mitch. Oh yeah, buddy, Mitch.
I have.
Question.
I have watched Initial D.
But
And an important follow-up question. No, that's not the reason why I bought my first 8.6.
okay, no, because the issue is I don't think have you finished watching season 1 yet, Craig?
No, I'm still up to like episode 22 or something.
So when we first started this show, Greg,
And you just dropped out again. Fuck my life. It just keeps dropping out.
when we first started the show, Greg admitted that he's
Sounds like
actually
a defense
watched.
mechanism.
Didn't watch season 1. Hasn't even watched season 1 of Initial D, and he was expecting. So yeah, we were saying that the minimum requirement for like becoming a drifter is to watch season 1 at least. And so he hadn't watched.
Initial D is more about like how terrible those guys are at their love life than it is about driving. If we're fair.
Well, see, this is where I got slow watching. As soon as it went to that crap, I stopped. I watched like religiously through really quickly till about episode 15, and then I got to that crap, and I was just like, "Why am I watching this?" Like, it's just now it's not like cool to watch anymore. Now it's just cringy.
It's cool.
So
it's cool.
It goes back to driving,
back to
like,
driving,
sort of stage 2 or whatever. But anyway,
so you're telling me if I finish watching this season, my car will not break down so often?
No, you'll become a better driver.
yeah,
but
that's what I'm telling you.
But my car needs to work for me to be able to be a better driver.
Well, you just need to stop building it crap. You can't blame the build. Nissan built the car well, and then you've gone and messed it up.
My car is built like this fucking internet connection currently.
Yeah, I don't know. Just don't ask too much from it. That's one thing that Sylvia guys always piss
I'm
me
just
off.
asking for it to work.
Yeah, but they're like, I can't believe I keep blowing up gearboxes. You know, I'm only running 400 horsepower through 265 on a factory SR box. Why does it keep breaking? It's like, because you're running 4 times the power and 5 times the tyre.
Actually,
Mine's not even that.
People in Japan are getting a lot of life out of their gearboxes with 265, which is really strange. With factory gearboxes. Yeah, I can't understand how they're doing that, but they are. They reckon it's the clutch choice. So if you get a button clutch, then there's so much shock on the driveline that it's going to smash gearboxes. But if you get like a sort of softer clutch, then you'll ease into it a lot nicer. So
I think the guys want to hear about Drift Masters.
Yeah, we spoke about it a little bit last week. I guess there's been a few announcements this week with Bo Yates, Josh Botcher, and Brad Toohey in as the first 3 pro drivers. I'm sort of speculating that there's potential that being the ADGP guys running it, as well as the fact that there's a little Shannon's logo going on, that they might be trying to. Yeah, and I've fucking dropped out again, I'm pretty sure.
No, you haven't.
No, that's all right. It keeps adjusting the quality, so you keep dropping quality.
Yeah. So, yeah, I would be imagining that maybe they're doing it as another test to see if they can get drivers to try and do what was supposedly planned, where they're running a small comp alongside Shannon's Nationals. So, yeah, we'll wait and see what happens from that. I know a few guys have gotten emails back who have entered amateur, but I put in to do amateur and I haven't heard back, so I'm feeling pretty rejected at the moment. But it'll probably save me a good $1,500 if I don't go, so I'm probably better off not going. Aussie drive with
I think it'll be run really well just because of the people that are running it. So, because I looked at the names, and it should run well. Whether the competition works, I'm not sure. I haven't really thought that deeply into it. So it's interesting. I like the idea of it though. So have you?
Yeah.
Go. Yeah, no, you go.
Well, I mean, ADGP ran alongside the V8 supercars in Perth for one round. So it's a similar sort of setup. But in the end of the day, the only thing I'd be worried about is that when drift tends to get merged with traditional motorsport, we tend to wear the worst end of the dick. And whenever there's a delay with your group events or whatever, suddenly the drifting just gets slid. And then, like, for example, the ADGP ended up being pretty much a night round. And everyone had more or less left Barbagallo, and the people didn't even realise that it was going on for the most part. So obviously the drifting people knew it, and we were all there. But yeah, when it becomes a sideshow, we tend to just get pushed further and further to the side. So it'll just depend on how much actual sway they have with the running of the event, whether they can hold their ground, or whether we just, as has happened in the past, we just kind of become this strange side spectacle that we can afford to dick around if need be.
Yeah, but I guess also off that, it comes down to being able to afford to run an event. And if you can only get, it looks like High Tech struggling to get numbers. If you can only get 16 pro cars that, can afford to run 265 semis with big horsepower, you don't really have much choice but to be a sideshow, unless you're going to charge, Wakefield for the weekend is like $15,000. So each of those guys would have to be paying $1,000 entry fee for a one-day event, basically, to make that event happen. So,
Yeah.
and that's just your track hire. So it might get to a point where it's just unrealistic. If I'm still here on this stream, because I can't hear you.
Still there.
Yeah.
So yeah, if Rob, people have mentioned that if Rob White wants to get in contact, get in contact with us if you'd like to jump on and have a bit more of a share of the information of what's going on with it. But I can imagine it's early days at this stage and probably keeping a few cards close to their chest. But I think the community is fairly excited for it, and yeah, I guess it's just a matter of time to see what comes of it. And we're a week and a bit away from High Tech starting up, so we'll see what comes from that as well in regards to professional drifting in Australia taking off again, if it's actually going to take off, or we sort of stick with the DCA and state style rounds and keep drifting at sort of more of a fun, sustainable level.
Yeah, I mean, that's Christian just brought up a really good point there, is that if you have a field of 60-odd drivers and they're all driving R31 shard boxes, then no one wants to go and watch that anyway, right? So, like, particularly when they're all really bunky and all the rest of it, you don't get that huge crowd or that huge non-driver interest unless the cars are look impressive, and unless they're really tight door-on-door driving. That said, the Vic Drift round, the round 2, got their highest crowd attendance ever, and that was 1,500 odd people. So that's pretty cool to get them out for a single event. And that was their night round. So it might just be a matter of adjusting our timings where we can as well. So if people are easy getting out, on a Saturday night, then maybe potentially running our events on a Saturday night, because that's when the young people can afford to take time off and get there.
It's interesting that you bring up cars looking like nuggets, because I did actually speak to a person that you previously sponsored a drift car, probably 10 years ago, I guess, and why he stopped sponsoring it. So one of the reasons was that the presentations of, so it's not just so that he sponsored the car, he built the car and he got a driver for it, and so his car is well presented and whatever, but then you get the rest of the field, and if they don't build nice cars as well, then his car could get beat up, and they're going to be in nuggets, and they don't care that they smash into his really expensive car. Or when you look at it from a business point of view, where if you're saying, oh yeah, I sponsor this car in this competition, but his car looks good, but the rest of the competition looks like rubbish, then what are you what's he doing sponsoring that event? Because it's it looks rubbish, like it looks shit. So people really need to focus on their presentation, so their car presentation, as well as their personal presentation, and yeah, biggest thing is just don't burn the sponsors. Like, you could actually burn a sponsor without having a sponsor. So even if you're in a competition and another person's sponsored, then and you just go, oh, I'm not sponsored, I don't care, then it'll affect them as well, because you don't care, but then the other competitor's sponsor cares, and just because you're entering, you're just causing issues for all this stuff. So it doesn't mean to stop entering, but it's more be aware that your actions can indirectly affect sponsorship. And
it's not just that though as well, EG, like even just all the shit that we get, the bad press we get on ACA. So my sort of main sponsor, if you will, is Infotherm, which admittedly, is only there because it's my dad's company, but he loves it and has come out in the car and really enjoys seeing it. And the problem is, though, that, what is the sponsor looking for? They're looking for positive media coverage. They're looking for, good photos or whatnot that they can put up on their social media to draw attention. But I've basically advised them for their particular business that, is it even worth putting that stuff on the social media? Because it's pretty polarizing at the moment, right? Because just about anyone who sees a car drifting thinks that all drifters are going around trying to run over babies or something.
Yeah.
So you're in an awkward spot where, well, is it any value for a company like that? So the other guys that I've got on board at the moment, sell, garage equipment. So for them, it's not a big issue because the kind of people who need hoists and all the rest of it essentially are in the industry or driving themselves. So for them, they're obviously going to use that on their socials. They don't see that negative influence of it. But for a company that isn't directly involved in motorsport, it can really be a negative press for them. So it's not just about tidying up the cars and how they look in comps and making the comps look more professional, but it's also trying to disassociate professional, motorsport-based drifting, i.e. at a track, with some of the stuff that gets done on the street. And the big problem is that the average punter looks at a Commodore doing a burnout, decides that's drifting, and we get screwed either way.
Yeah, or they even say that they're drifting themselves. So it happens really often. And then the news, and I think we brought this up a few episodes ago. So yeah, But
I guess the other thing with some of the good, like, well presented cars, and when you end up in a competition and the driving does get really close, I've got a lot of the guys are struggling just to even make it to the event. But then you've ripped off your $300 front bar, you've ripped off your $300 rear bar, and then your $150 side skirt. It ends up being a really expensive weekend to be able to repair that and have it looking good for the next event if you're paying all that out of your own pocket. Yeah, you can say, fiberglass repair kit, whatever, but then again, that's still, your costs are coming up really quickly. And when there's
Greg, that's just motorsport, mate. Like,
no.
If you look at like Aussie racing cars or door-to-door circuit racing, they rub paint as well, and a lot of their regs are just saying tough.
But they're in a position at the moment where they have a great platform to sell themselves. We currently don't have a great platform to sell ourselves on.
I don't think that they all do though. Like if you look at something like Formula V. Like, yeah, the cars aren't all that expensive, but they're not getting big dollar sponsors because who watches Formula V? So it's kind of, we've got to be careful as well not to overgeneralize and say, all grip-based motorsport is in a really good position.
Yeah, not so much from that perspective, but more so from just that circuit racing is socially acceptable and has had its, been out there for a long time and is more seen as a gentleman's sport, where we're seen as a group of idiots, number one, and then we drag our costs up hugely as well with, a lot of young people in the scene. So, we tend to kill ourselves a little bit. We all just need Datto 120Ys like Logan in here commenting, so we just have chrome bumpers and nothing falls off, I guess.
I don't know. It's not working all that well for Chris Walker at some points as well. He's finding a bit of difficulty, I think, getting some chrome bumpers. He was saying he was going to troll like the 200B forums just by posting up the back end of his car after Vic Drift round one, sort of saying, wanting to buy fresh bumper. And if you saw the back of his car, like he was running the wall so tightly, basically because where there was supposed to be car, there wasn't car anymore. It had just been brushed out of the way. But man, it looked cool. Like, he's a good driver. Chris is he's good fun to drive with, and he's good quality.
But I guess where do you guys feel like the crossover point is? We could say, screw becoming mainstream and worrying about anybody being sponsored and just letting the cars get cars rough and not having them well presented and everybody just paying out of their own pocket. Or you have to go the other extreme and have it where everybody's expected to keep the car tidy, the car has to be clean, but then it gives you a greater platform for everybody to try and sell themselves for it to be paid for, but everything gets much more expensive at that point. Where
the way they managed that in Perth, which I thought was pretty good, was your competitions would be 32, but then based off your qualifying, you'd split into a top 16 and a bottom 16. And so you expect your dudes to turn up in high-quality cars to be able to drive, right? And so if you get all the nice cars, they're going to qualify 9 times out of 10 in the top 16, and then you end up with essentially a pro class out of that. It doesn't cost them any more, and it also means that the drivers who are, getting better in their amateur class eventually get to mix it up with the top shelf guys. And when they realise that their cars aren't up to spec, they go back and they work on them, and then when they have the pride and from the investment that they've put into building it, and so they make them look nicer as well. And then the guys in the bottom 16 still get to run decent battles, right? Because they're not turning up and having their first round like I did, the first comp I ever did, up against Borneo and Truella in his 600 horsepower Cephei, and there's me in a NA4AG 86. So you don't end up with battle matchups like that. You end up with reasonably good battling, which then means that the bottom 16 guys actually develop their skills, and the top 16 guys looks cool. The sponsors see a product that they can invest money in themselves and get some sort of return out of. But then as far as entry money and whatnot, it's not like a lot of the series that you see these days where you enter specifically into the pro comp and that costs you 4 times as much, or you enter into the amateur comp and you get a cheaper thingo, but you get a bit sidelined.
Yeah, but I guess it falls back to EG's point as well, where he was saying that the sponsor was more worried about the fact that, hey, we might have a nice car, but everybody else's car is a piece of shit.
But that's the thing, is that you don't end in that scenario because you're going to have, at least 12.
But you're still there on the same weekend, though.
You're same weekend, but I mean, all of your qualifying runs are solo runs. So, it's just a matter of, as long as you're careful in your morning practice as to who's right up your clacker or who you're running with, then you're not really running any huge risk of just getting T-boned, by the really dodgy car. And then
so say there wasn't that much of a strict car requirement for that competition, then you get, what happens if you get people like Stewie Bryant in the old Laurel or the R32, the old one, not talking about yeah. So I'm not talking about the current one because that one's not too bad yet. The Cepheis, I think, are getting a bit more beat up, but the old one was definitely very beat up and very, very different shape. Then there's also Simon Micklemore in the R33, if that still exists, if you've seen that before. So it was his practice car, but he did enter it in some events as well. I think I put it up as one of the thumbnails. And even like one of my cars, which is pretty beat up as well. And then if we qualify in the top 16, then it's going to look pretty different then. That top 16 field's going to look pretty different then.
Yeah, and look, I mean, you're not going to find a situation that just solves every problem. You do get those few drivers who are just incredible steerers who choose to drive pretty missile-looking rigs. But what do you do about that? You can either sacrifice the whole sport to prevent that from happening, or get the majority of things right.
Yeah. So really, drivers, like, it'd be nice if drivers take their own. I guess you use a good word, which is pride. So when they do enter the car, they want to present themselves really well, regardless of.
And it's something you see heaps in Japan, but for some reason doesn't translate that well for us.
No, because it's cool to give no fucks in Australia.
Yeah. There's also some other cultural things, I think, where they think they're better, so they don't need to do that sort of presentation.
And that was actually the first question that Takahashi-san asked me at the servo when he first saw my car. Was he looked at all the bodywork? He's like, "Oh, is this all genuine bodywork?" And I'm like, "No, I can't afford that." And he's a body kit manufacturer, obviously, so it's probably close to his heart. But that was his assumption. I think when he first looked at the car, it was reasonably well presented. This probably genuine bodywork, and it's like, no. But again, the Japanese also don't have to import their body kits where we do, so we get hit with freight and import tax and all that sort of stuff too.
Yeah, it's going to get worse with import tax soon.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was going to ask earlier, because you did mention high tech, or high tech was mentioned earlier. There's a Winton round coming up at some point. Is that something that you're interested? I don't know when it's on. Is that something that you're interested in entering, or?
Again, I mostly do the driving for fun. If the high tech is affordable and all that, as far as like competition licenses and all the rest of it, I'd consider it. The reality is, I don't know that my car is particularly competitive on the cheap 195s that I'm sticking on the back. So probably not. But as I said, it's kind of it really depends on what you're trying to get out of the sport.
I think we need to get Christian Pickering on an episode.
He practically is on this one, isn't he?
Christian, if you are interested in coming on and going full serious, we are more than happy to have you. So just hit us up and we'll try and line that up. We're more than happy for you to go full ham on everybody's ass.
Okay, all right, that's all right. Well, he can message a page and we'll schedule him in if he's interested.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely a discussion we want to have, but it's just more, time and place for that sort of thing. And as we grow and have a bigger audience, we sort of want to go that direction.
Cool. Anyway, do you think we should wrap it up?
I think we might wrap it up, considering we've spent like 4 hours trying to make this thing bloody happen.
Yeah.
I guess there's one other piece of news that I forgot earlier. Anybody who wants to manage a track, Wakefield is looking for a new operations manager. So there's a LinkedIn job advertisement going. So if you want to manage a track, anybody who wants to jump over from anywhere in the country and make drifting happen more often at Wakefield, apply to run Wakefield for us. That would be pretty good. So
allow more drifting.
I guess you can supply strippers, Christian, if you come on. But yeah, there's a job at Wakefield going for anybody who's interested.
That's it.
My audio just keeps dropping in and out. I got no idea what's going on. I'm like fucking over this. Next week, I guess, are we pretty much locked in for our guest for next week?
Yep. I'll double check anyway, but I did. It was last week when I spoke to him. So
yeah,
But
So
yeah.
next week we're supposed to have the creator of the drift bit coming on to have a bit of a pun intended, a bit of a chat.
Good.
And
Good.
that should be an interesting one. So if you've got any questions for those guys, shoot them through. But hopefully we'll be up and running on time.
Questions, he said. He says he's happy to answer any questions. Yeah, next week I'll have my mobile data will be back to normal, so we'll be, except for Gerg's issues, we should all be good to go.
I don't even know what my issue is. I check speed. I've got the stream going on the other computer and it's fine, but I just don't know if it's doing a virus scan in the background or, as EG said, that there's just too much porn downloading or something's being a bit funny. But yeah, no good at all.
Thank you, Andrew, for coming on.
And staying with us for the 4 hours it took us to get organised.
Yeah. Oh, that was
all
crazy.
good. Cheers. I'll talk to you guys later.
Yep, all good. So yeah, thank you very much. I guess that's it, and we'll
catch you on the next one.
See you next week. All right, cool. All right, I'll end the stream now. Okay.
This is where you end the stream, EG.
I will. Hang on.
He's like waiting for the rest of us to end that, Betty, still.